hitting the record button now. Again, our topic today is how to start out with the Ag Experience Tracker, AET, as our record-keeping system. And so, again, I'm Matt Kreifels, and I say that because we'll archive this and put it out onto our website. And it wouldn't surprise me if some other teachers from other states took advantage of this particular topic as well. I am going to mute everybody. I need to figure out where to do that. Mute all. And you can unmute yourself at any time with questions. And so please feel free to do that yourself as needed. Today's host is actually John Lechtenberg. And so thanks, John, for coming in and leading us through this discussion. I'm unmuting you so you can talk. And John, I'll turn it over to you. You open it up and facilitate this as you see fit.
Okay. Again, welcome. I first want some waivers or disclaimers, I guess. AET is changing and evolving some from what it was last spring. So some of the things I've done, you may have done more recently. So if I'm saying something that you think is a little incorrect or confusing, please ask or clarify something. And I'll show you how you may, if you've done any of this last spring, some of the screens look a little different. We'll kind of talk through that. They've made some improvements based on other states as well as our state suggestions. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to kind of go through the basics. And if I fly too fast, I guess please holler. And can you see my screen?
No, I cannot yet, John. And your video and audio just stuttered there for a second as well again. So
okay.
I don't know if your Wi-Fi is not. Oh, your Wi-Fi is strong. Your screen just came up now. So.
Okay, so you can see my computer now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm going to open the internet, as you probably already at. So again, where's a new one? How do I get to I had a new window there. We'll try that. You got to be kidding me. How is this not? Something's not working right now. I had to put in a special code here. New window, that'll work. Okay. Okay, the AET.com. And oops, I'm already logged in, it says. Got to move this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to sign off real quick. So for anybody who hasn't signed up, it's going to look very similar to this page. When you get there, there'll be random pictures there. Left-hand side, your teacher login, username and password if you haven't logged in. Hopefully you can kind of do this as we go. And you're logged in. This is your teacher dashboard. And it'll look – it says some alerts. Yours may have more or less than mine. Mine says I owe $150 for our entry or for our fee. Over to the left, it'll say how many students you have right now. There'll be some stats there. First thing that you need to do if you have not done it already is fill out your teacher profile, which is not a ton of stuff. Update your chapter's contact info. If you want to change your password, data, that's not required in order to use the system. It's optional. There's different tabs there that you can click. You can do all of those things. Eventually, those may be used to report data to the state, possibly. Profile, again, the other thing you need to have is at least one teacher added here. If you're a two-teacher program, you've got to have a teacher in there. The history, the data, again, is optional, but you have to show that there's at least one teacher in the program. If you have a two-teacher program right here, you add a new person, you put their name, add. It'll give you that opportunity to change their information. Hey, So that's that stuff. This phone number actually has a value that you have your cell phone in there. In terms of, I'll talk a little bit at some point about the teacher version for a cell phone. I can pull up any of your programs, and just like we have the contact info on any Ag Ed, this pulls up I can look you up by name or program, and if your phone number is in here, I can get to your phone number and I could call you or send a text. So that can be valuable at state convention when you don't have everybody's number. Or we were at land judging and we had a teacher running late that we could call because they had their stuff updated. So that does have a value, I guess. Okay. The other thing, this list of vendors we're not going to mess with right now. If somebody has a question on it, we can cover. Important contacts, not that important right now.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Can we pause a minute?
Yes.
Situation I've got is I've had a previous instructor here before, and when I deleted him out, that wound up taking all his courses out at a later date. And so if you're in that transition between schools, you need to make sure you leave that instructor in there for building this part of the program on the courses and stuff.
That's an excellent point, not anything I've thought of. So if you're in that position, make sure you you could probably leave them, create yourself, and then when we get to the course screen, you may be able to change who the teacher is. And once you've changed all those courses, or just leave them in the system because they're not hurting anything, 3 or 4 years down the road when all those kids are gone, you could possibly, or just leave them in there. I don't see any harm in them being there, I guess. But that's a good point. Okay. Then before kids can do anything, you've got a course. And ideally, you do all of these things, ones that are not mandatory in order to get kids doing stuff. So your screen probably won't look quite like this. It might have nothing if you haven't added courses. So new course, okay. You select your teacher. First day of school, last day, or first day of class, last day of class. You can kind of decide on your dates here, but basically you could do it year-long courses. Whatever your courses are should be fine. There's some pathway choices. And again, so let's say it just started October 1st and ends October, the 1 month class. That's the new craze here in Nebraska. 1 month. So you pick, and maybe you're like, well, you're a multiple pathway. Just pick whatever fits best. Don't lose sleep on your courses. But a lot of these fit our pathways, and so if you go through that POS that we got at our in-service, maybe you can find where they should fit best. The name, this is what you call it. So if you call it animal science, or if you have different periods. Lesson template, I haven't messed with that. I think if you want to be creative, you can check with that. You click save. I'm going to click cancel. But if it looks like it doesn't show up, these little arrows here, expand these. So you can see all the courses I have set up for 2014. Okay. Next year, I will be able to copy these, and I can just say copy, and I change the date, and I save it, and I'll have those courses for next year. So once you've added them all in, okay, the important thing, I guess, if you're wanting to convert seniors and they have 4 years of records and you want to do that, go back 4 years. You'll see 2010, 2011 in here. I wasn't using AET in 2010 and 2011. But if I have kids who have records from them that wanted to convert them, I had to go back in and add those classes that those kids were in, because in order to be an FFA member, they have to be an ag student. So this has to prove that they're an ag student, and this is the way that they can do that. Okay. I think you can. I haven't messed with, I want to go back. I think you might be able to see, I haven't done much with enrollment, but ag business this year. So these are the kids that are in my ag business class that have actually said they are. That's not all 7 of them. That's only 5 of the ones. We've got some others that haven't done their stuff, I guess. So that shows they're in a class. That allows them to keep records. Any questions on the course builder at this time? Okay. Again, I'm going to go back to profile. You do have to do that every year for the next year's courses. It doesn't take very long if you copy. Okay. The next thing you have to do before kids can get into the site, they have to have a username and password. They have to be created. So I was in profile. I'm going to click accounts. Okay. When I click accounts, there's 3 options here for accounts. And we're going to start with manage all accounts, because that way if you don't have any students, your screen will look a little different than this. This has all of my students in it here. You'll see up on the left-hand side it says active students, inactive students, and practice AET accounts. So maybe you're using this with 8th graders. You can set up, I think it's a 90-day practice AET account. You can I can click my inactive. For some reason it's loading for me. Should be moving. Oh, there it did. I guess it switched. So inactive, these are kids for me that are kids that were once in ag and either graduated and they're not keeping records currently. I don't need them on my system right now. I could switch them back if needed. Or they're kids that took ag as a freshman, sophomore. They're not this year, but they had records, and I don't want to delete them entirely in case they come back. At least we'll have proof that what they did those first 2 years. So I could make them active again. To adjust anything on a kid from this screen, if they already exist, click their name, and I can click them active or inactive. I can exclude them from the stats. With the stats are kind of this thing over here, I think. I can disable messaging. There's a messaging system here where kids can send each other messages. They can send me messages. If I find out they're goofing off, I can disable that. They can't. Their username, I can change that. I can change how their name is spelled in case I messed it up, okay, and I need to fix that. I can fix that. Year they graduate, I can change all this stuff. Password, it says bad login attempt. So if they're like, I can't remember my password, well, you can change it. Change it for them, save, and then it'll update for them. You can also open their account from this screen, which will go to their now I'm this student and I'm a student. And I'm going to go back to the chapter account real quick because that's not what we want to teach. Manage all accounts. If you don't have any in, add accounts. You can add one or you can add multiple. To add one, I hit the wrong button, I think. Add one. It's going to take me to a screen that looks like this. I type in a username, first name, email address, high school graduation, and password. That's what they need in order to create a user. If you're wanting to add all your kids, I strongly recommend not doing this. This would be you have a late add or kid moves in, you've already done your roster stuff, then I would use this. Adding multiple is pretty easy. It gives you instructions here. Basically put them in an Excel document or a Word document and put them in one of these formats down here. Okay. Probably you have an Excel document that has a list of all your kids somewhere. Last name, comma, first name, comma, username, comma, password. That is if you want to give them all that stuff. Okay. What I usually do is I usually just did this one when I added them. Last name, first name. And what that will do is it says right here, if you do not give them usernames or passwords, then it's going to automatically set them to, I think it makes them first initial, last name. So like J. Lechtenberg. And to me, that was fine, good enough. Beats me having to type in 45 different usernames, and then they all know what they are always. If they ask, I don't remember my username, I remember what it was because it's the same system for every kid. The only problem with that is sometimes when you have kids with the same Vela and a Jordan Vela. So they'll do, and I have a Kristen Bose and a Cade Bose. So KBOs. One of them will be automatically given KBOs 1 or JVELA 2 or something like that. And so, but then they just remember that, and it's not the end of the world. It'll make their password automatically the same. So you just copy, paste that all in there, and you add accounts down at the bottom. Okay. Once you do that, those accounts will show up on this screen. That's what it'll have, the grade in there. Shows when their last access was. You can sort by that. So you can see there's some people here that have not accessed in a long time. I think I can sort. Maybe it's not sorting. It only sorts the one direction, I guess. So the ones that have done it are down at the bottom. You can also use this page for National FFA roster stuff. You click this button, and I think I've already sent my stuff in, but I can send these on. That's probably hard, but it's not what our focus is today. Okay, now I'm on my chapter screen again. I've clicked accounts. This is where I'm at. If I want to be a student, which for what I'm going to do today, and I guess I have a student made that is called Fred Sample. And so he's my kid that I be when I want to do stuff, I guess. So if you have a student, I don't think it's a bad idea to, if you want to play around today, add one student, make up a username, password, whatever, add him, and then play with him. You can delete him later if you want. I don't think that's the end of the world. There is practice AET, which is probably more for this type of thing. But so I'm going to be a student, and as soon as I access the student, I'm going to go to this screen. Access it from there. For some reason, that's not – this video that's on here is kind of blocking my view of my screen sometimes. There's Fred Sample. Okay. I'm opening his AET. So now I am Fred Sample. This is what the student sees when they log in. Okay. Looks very similar to the chapter, what you see as an advisor, but it's different. It said it's got some alerts saying you have no active experience, you have no current classes. So this student is not in a class. Now the first thing that I'll usually do to kids, one is I'll show them, but sometimes I'll have it printed out for them. If you look over here, there's some important things for us as teachers. There's student help, teacher help, curriculum, ask AET a question. If there's something you're confused on or can't figure out, I would start up here and work my way down. Okay? Now, if you're in a hurry and you don't want to look through that stuff, they're pretty quick at answering those questions. But for student help, it opens a new window. There's a getting started guide on day one. If you open that, it kind of tells them. You could print this out and handwrite real quick there what your chapter number is. Maybe you have a poster that says this stuff on there. Just have them fill it out here and keep that with them. It gives them all the stuff that we're going to do right now is on a user guide for them. Now, as you get down here, this starts talking a little bit about planning an SAE. You may
John, I think you may have dropped out.
thing that they would need to do on this. I'm not going to go through those user guides because you have access to those. I'm going to give you more of a verbal tour, I guess. So I'm changing windows back to where I was at. Teacher help has a lot of the same things, okay, but has more of the classroom resources. There are some worksheets and keys and things like that that they recommend doing to help train people. There's a video. There's a whole list of resources down here of things that you can use and how to do certain things. there's a show steer problem with a key. So those are some things that you can use. Okay, back to the record book. Okay, so the first thing a student needs to do is go to their profile. And there's profile on the top here, or there's profile on the bottom. They take you to the same place. Okay, they need to fill out this manage, edit, personal profile. Okay, and this page is really very important to them if they're ever going to do anything such as proficiency awards or state degrees. Because everything in here, and membership, if they're going to be a member, it's important because this stuff transfers exactly how they put it in. You can upload this to Ag Career Network. This transfers to their state degree, American degree proficiencies. So they never, if they do this right, don't ever have to retype this. If they do it wrong, as in they don't capitalize their name or they don't capitalize their town or things like that, that'll frustrate us as Ag teachers, then eventually they have to, when they're doing their degrees, they have to redo the whole page, and it's frustrating. The other thing that's very, very helpful to me is this part right here. I'm still on this information part, cell phone number, okay? And right here, if they're willing, I strongly recommend you use this. Have them pick their cell phone carrier. A lot of them are Verizon in my area. If it says none/no text messages, then they're not going to be able to use this part I'm going to quick show you. Same with parents. If their parents have a cell phone that they'll let you, I don't recommend sending a lot of messages, but it's nice to have access to those phone numbers. And this can all be on your phone. And I'll show you what that looks like real quick in a minute. So that's their profile. They will save that. This portfolio, everything else is just portfolio email address is a little bit unique. They can make something up. Maybe it's john@pix.aet.com. If they save that email, that is not an email to get email. That's an email they may use to send pictures. So if they take a picture on their smartphone, rather than somehow saving it to a computer and then saving it to a flash drive and then bringing the flash drive to school and uploading it, if they email it to this email that they make, it will automatically upload it to this system and tag it to them, which is kind of handy. I have a few kids that take advantage of that. Some don't, and it's fine either way. I'm going to cancel out of there. That's the first thing. And I'm going to click back to chapter account real quick and show you kind of a neat tool. So you've got all your kids doing that, and they all say they're done, of course, right? And so I think that's it. Yeah, okay. So that is the right. My internet's being super slow. I click accounts is where I should be. Right here, summary of all students, award, progress, and awards. If I click that, one thing it tells me is right here, profile percentage complete. So if you had a kid, you just did day one, and all you really want to do is get an ag class added, get logged in, and they all say we're done. Okay? I've had kids tell me they're done, and I still have one that's only 80% done. Where that percentage comes from, I don't know exactly how they figure that, but you can see Fred Samples, 40% done. Basically means my name's in there and I was already done when I started. So if it doesn't say 100%, they're missing a phone number, they're missing parents' names, they're missing something. This 100% does not mean that it's all right. Let's see what it says if I click on that percentage, it takes me to that student's account and I can see what they're missing. Doesn't mean they spelled things right, doesn't mean they capitalized, but it means every blank has something in it. So that's one way you can kind of check and see. I think some people could use, while we're on this screen, could use this for grading. I know some people have a minimum number of entries that maybe they have to have. This shows how much earnings. You can kind of rank your kids on what they put in for earnings so far. And unpaid hours, community service hours, who has the most community service hours. You can kind of look at what they've got for community service hours in the system. So if they tell you, they have done a lot of hours and they say, yeah, we got it all in, and you look and it's 5 and that's wrong, you can remind them that they don't have them all in. Or if they do, they're wrong and they need to fix that. So I'm going to go back to Fred's sample, I think. And you can usually, there we go, now it's working. The drop-down box, select them. I am Fred sample, profile. I've just added all that. I need to record my school ag class schedule. It shows that I am in a summer class and an intro. I'm in no current class. And so if I want to be in a current class, I click add. I find what class I'm in. I add it. And now I'm in a class this year. And I'm done with that. So that's how easy that part is. If they're in 2 classes, have them add 2. If they add the wrong one, they can delete it here and re-add. Okay. Managing your resume information, I have not messed with this much. Your record book will print a resume. I guess I've had some students put in here, I put when you get the Green Hand degree, any degrees they get, or if they were Star Green Hand Efficiency Awards, stuff like that, I do have them put in here. This will generate a record or a resume. I think of it much more of it is not a resume that I would use on a job application or probably even a college application, but it's a decent FFA activity resume, I guess, is more what it is when it prints and if we show you a profile or a review. So that I don't think – they put it on Getting Started Guide. It's not crucial to getting started as far as SAE management, but it is cool, I guess, when you get it all done. I'm going to skip develop your AET experiences because that's probably the most important and I want to spend more time on it. Enter FFA offices, quick, easy. Add a new office, select what office you were. Okay. When did your chapter, when you started. I usually have them go from banquet to banquet. If you want to do it school year to school year, that's however you want to do it. That will add their offices. Fred Sample is, I don't know, he can be our vice president at the chapter level. He's only going to do it for a day. He got impeached. And so I insert that, and now he's the vice president. And so that shows up there. I'm going to delete it or else it'll show up on my website, I guess. I don't want that to happen. Enter committees. This is important. Especially for students who are going to get their state degree, because this transfers over. As you know, on our past state degree, there was the yes, I've served on committees, or no, I haven't. And they have to have served on a committee to get their state degree. So it's important that they put in here what committee that they were on, or else they'll be not met when they do their state or American degree. And so for us, actually, my students, we don't break them out this specific very often. Sometimes we get that specific, but basically mine are usually chapter, community, or student. So if a kid was in the chapter community, I have them add all 5 of those. And for that year, again, starting date, and then for the next year, they might have been in a different one. So that's how you add those. Return, that's the committees. Judging card event results doesn't really matter to us because we don't use them to report our results. That's more of some other states use this, and they can access the results through this, which is probably pretty cool, but I haven't experienced that. This part over here, not crucial to getting their SAE started, but it is kind of cool for program management. They click in here, they do their career area, they say, I'm interested in agribusiness and animal systems, but I actually like animal systems better than, okay. And what this will do from a program standpoint, you can print a report. If you do annual reports for your school board or advisory council, you can print a report that says, I have 50 students, 65% of them are involved or in agribusiness, 20% of them are interested in horticulture, whatever. It kind of tells you that, I guess. So it's a data thing, not crucial for awards or for record keeping, but more of a same with this one. They can kind of go through and find what job they're interested in. And that can be fun to use, I suppose, when you're doing your career stuff, especially with freshmen. Oops. Okay, so now SAE stuff. Develop your AET experiences. When we get in here, this student has no experiences. An experience is an SAE. Okay, keep that in mind. Add new. If you've added some last spring, this changed a little bit. Okay, the name of these, again, just like it used to be, it could be John's Cattle, could be John's Show Steers, could be whatever you want it, however you want them to name it. I like them to keep it pretty simple, and but also tell them what it is. Hey, one thing that they recommend doing, if it's especially kind of a one-year project, like if it's a show steer or a market hog or something like that, they might put market hogs 2014 or 14. And they put that date there as an ending date, like the anticipated ending date of it. And if you have market hogs for 4 years, essentially you're going to end up with 4 enterprises, 4 experiences, each year being a different experience, because that's one that starts and ends maybe within a year's time. And so when I create this, it puts a little number in front of that of what the first entry I ever had was. And so that might have been in 2013. Maybe I bought feeder hogs in 2013 and I showed them and sold them in 2014. So that's one that you can do that on. You select what area it is. There's little question marks here that kind of tell you, and these are new also, I guess, but give you some pointers. And that's what this is saying with the dates. They recommend dating it with when you plan to sell that product, especially if it's an entrepreneurship. If it's a placement, I don't think they have any recommendations on doing that. Job experience, just call it what the job is. So let's do a placement first. We'll call it Smith Farms is where I work. Okay, it's a paid placement. A primary experience. Okay, and this is new also. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. This is new. A primary experience is animal. They do mostly beef at Smith Farms, so that's what I put there. Subcategory is that. However, we put up a lot of hay, multiple SAE categories. So I click that, and you'll see that expanded that. See how big that is. They also do plant systems, forage crops. Okay, so I'm going to give this a specific name. I'm going to call it Smith Farms Beef and Smith Farms Forage, because my ag teacher said I could apply for proficiencies in both beef and forage if I'm working for them. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to save it. Okay, so this would be great for those family farms. You could go as far as saying grain crops. Maybe they do corn, soybeans, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to keep it a little simpler here and just leave that the way it is. Okay. So now you'll see it actually created 2 SAEs. I have Smith Farms Forage and Smith Farms Beef. Okay. And that to me is an improvement. If you did anything with this last year, even if it was diversified ag, you had to call it all one category. So I'm going to use the placement now first. We'll come back and set up an entrepreneurship. Let's see. So profile, now our alerts have gone away. That's good because we're in a class and we've got our experience. So one thing that's different about this than our old system as far as what you and you can teach it however you want, I guess, but in order to have paid hours, in order to record paid hours, you have to use this button right here. I clicked finances, and I'm going to enter a paycheck. Okay, I'm entering a paycheck. I'm going to date that paycheck, gross income. Okay, it says paid placement shown here. Unpaid placement, use the journal. Okay, so this is, I got paid $500 Taxes was 0. Expenses, again, that is expenses like stuff taken out of your so Smith Farm makes me wear a polo that says Smith Farms on it, and they took $20 out of my check in order to pay for that shirt. Or I broke a window mowing lawns, and they took $50 out of my check to pay for my window I broke. Those would be some job-related expenses, I think, is how I interpret that. So I worked 50 hours. Okay. Now, down here is where now we are able to break this apart by enterprise or by experience. I got one check on October 8th for $500. However, part of that was forage, okay, a big part of it, and that makes it right now, it defaults to 100% there, saying $500, 50 hours, raked, and you put a little raked and baled, fourth cutting alfalfa, okay, whatever you'd have. I encourage them to do something. But I also did some beef work. It makes it 50-50 all of a sudden. Okay, on that, we wean calves. Okay, now, I don't know whether I love this or not, but this is the way it is. The only thing I can edit is the percentage, okay? And that's not always going to be an easy thing to figure for kids, but it's not terrible. So if they jot it down in their notebook, or they know that it was an 8-hour day when they weaned calves. So of this 50 hours, 8 of it was cattle and the rest was forage. Have them take 8 divided by 50, which is 16%. They have to edit both of these. 16%. Whoops. 16%. That puts me at my 8 hours. That's good there. And then that leaves me with 74% there. And now I've adjusted that. It let you do, so maybe it was 8.5 hours. You can adjust that. Some people, they clock in, so around in the nearest half or full hour. Some they get a pay stub and it says 8.2 hours. If it's 8.2, just take 8.2 divided by the total hours on that sheet, and that's 16.4%. You can still do that. It adjusts it to 8.2 hours. This one you have to adjust down to 73.6, I think. That looked right? That looks right. So then when you save that, it'll make those entries for us. I got to split percentage. Oops, did I do that right? Must total. Okay, and it won't let them save something. That's kind of nice. So I did something wrong. What's this need to be? Something's not right. What do I need to get to? 80.6. There we go. So it won't let them save it unless it adds up to 100. Hey, maybe. Now, I'm going to disregard this part that I'm doing right here. This is something I was playing with earlier. I'm going to delete that out. Internet's being pretty slow. Okay, so you'll see that's made an entry for paid work income from Smith Farms forage, and it's got my income there. It also went to so we have journal and finances. Journal's where you log your hours. Okay, in my journal, if I review journal entries, it is also should have in 2000. What date did I put on that? Why did it not? Should have added a review financial entries on 10/8/2013. I should have a journal entry for the year 2013. Okay. 10/8/2013. You'll see it put in my hours there. It made 2 entries. Weaned calves, 8.2 hours. Raked and baled, fourth cutting alfalfa, 41.8 hours. So it has put those in there. which is great. Now, the thing some people were getting in trouble with last spring is some people want students to keep track of their hours daily, and then when they put a paycheck in, do that. And that's fine to have them do, but if they want to put them in AET daily, they have to do it through the enter paycheck, and they will actually put in what they earned that day as well as what they worked. Because if you just go journal and add time in SAE experiences, this will all be considered unpaid hours through this. And so if I had logged in my 81 or 50 hours here, it's going to double dip. It's going to give me 50 unpaid hours and 50 paid hours. And so please do not do that, or if you want to do it some way that way, you've got to do it through any paid income or paid hours needs to go through the paycheck system, or else it will throw you off.
John, would it be fair that if someone wanted to have students log a daily thing, they could enter it in the journal but just put the hours in the description rather than the hours placed?
Okay, yep. So if you want to do a daily journal, like, okay, so they're gonna go in here. Well, I'll explain one potential problem with that as I see it, but it wouldn't be as bad. So if I want to time in my AET experiences and I want to put in every day I'm working 5 hours, and I do that, and I'm beef and I wean calves, okay, and I put in here 8 hours, okay, and I save that, and I want to go over here. Now, if I actually get paid 2 weeks later, maybe, okay, let's do one more of those, I guess. We're gonna work beef again, and we vaccinated cattle. Hey, and this was the next day. This is back in 2013. And I put in here another 8 hours. So I've got 16 hours that I've shown. Hey, I haven't shown that I've gotten paid. When I go to finances and I enter paycheck, and if I'm getting $10 an hour, I'm going to put 16, or what was that? I got 16 hours. I'm going to put $160, 0 taxes, 0 expenses. And I'm going to put 0 hours because I've already accounted for those hours on the other screen. And I'd still put my experience there of beef. The problem with doing this is now you're not double counting your hours as paid, but you're getting credit for unpaid hours, which is times 3.56 or whatever, as well as income. So now you're showing 0 paid hours, but showing paid income. So that's how I actually did it last spring, because I thought that was better, and at the time it may have been their best option. But now you can split them a lot better. I would strongly recommend doing any paid hours through the paid income tab, or else you're gonna throw off your numbers and not know for sure why. So if you'd rather do it daily, put in here, even though you didn't actually receive the money yet, you worked 8 hours. I would put my 8 hours there. I'd call it beef or forage, and I'd say raked hay. Now, there's going to be more entries there, and that's fine, but that's the way you should do it. It also will add that into your journal when you review journal entries. Now you'll see that there's still that raked hay there somewhere here, raked hay. That's my 8 hours. I can edit that, and it says that they were paid hours, which is nice. If I look at this one, which was vaccinated cattle, it opens up this. Those are unpaid hours. There's no payment there. So the only way to really link payment with hours and do it right is through the paycheck. So hopefully that is okay. I guess there's not much you can do as far as if they're paid hours, they got to go in the paid income area. Okay. Profile, let's see. So that's the placement. That's really the biggest thing they got to do, I guess. As far as that is keep track of their hours income. Skills, if they're getting special skills, that might be a good place. The resume may be a good place to put that. Certification and skills, maybe they learned to rake hay this year, okay, or baled hay. That would be a good place to show those skills that they can do. I think that's probably the best place as I know of it.
John, can you
So let's go into an entrepreneurship SAE. When we look at, and it's a little bit crazier. Now here we've got to add new again. We're going to call this John's Breeding Beef. And you don't have to put their name. They know who they are, but I'm putting Breeding Beef. It's entrepreneurship. Animal systems. It is beef. There's some options here, and whether it's beef, those options change a little bit. They've got some dairy options. They have some swine options. They all change a little bit. I don't know how detailed they get there. Okay. If they don't have your option, they a lot of times have an other, or choose one that's close and hope that the kids can accept that. I'll choose beef here. These are going to be breeding cattle. Management module is important. It's very cool, I think. The breeding herd manager is what we're going to be, because these are my breeding cows. Okay. I also, at the same time, I'm going to, because I know I'm going to do it, I'm going to set up a backgrounding lot. Okay, or I'll just put wean calves. You could call it whatever you want, and I'll explain why that's going to be important in a little bit. Animal systems, beef, it's going to be market cattle, and I'm going to use the market/heifer manager for this one. So they're two different managers, and I've saved that. This would be the same whether I'm managing a breeding herd of pigs or goats or sheep. I'd use these two managers, one breeding and one market/heifer. And I think it's still going to call it, even if it's for sheep or pigs, it still calls it market/heifer, but it works the same either way. Okay. While I'm on this screen real quick, these tools, this is my edit, okay, and I can edit those. If you wanted to delete one, you can go through that to do that. This turns it on or off, meaning if you had a wean calf, or if you had a market steer from 2 years ago, and you can turn it off and it'll quit coming up in the drop down box because you don't want to edit that. Or if you worked somewhere 1 year but you're not anymore, you can, and you don't want to delete it, you can turn Smith Farms off because you're no longer doing any beef work there. They sold all their cows. So that way that screen quits giving you the option to enter that. The plan here is a lot of questions. These do print out, and maybe I'll show you some of those finished ones here in a little bit. They show up. There's just questions. It's kind of like the agreements page, okay? And I'll show one of those in just a moment. And it prints out to where you could take it home and get it signed if you want, just like what we used to do with our agreements page. It asks those questions, you fill them out. They're not exactly the same, but let's see. This is a budget. You don't have to do one of those for a placement, but this is for them to go through and say, well, I plan to have this many calves, yada, yada, yada. This is good for them to do with you or your parents, and they can save that. The thumbs up, let's see, review annual details. This just kind of tells you what you need to do in order to get that in good shape. Let's see what this one says. Okay, they want us to put in some sort of scope, review of scope. So how many, just a description of what we did that day, or that year, I mean, because that year's already over, 2013, and they're saying you need to summarize your year, I guess, put in inning values, some of those things. Okay. Now, from the first thing I would want to do if I'm going to have especially an SAE related to livestock is beginning. So I click finances, beginning projects and capital items before your first day in ag. This little blue box here. Okay. This page helps you establish yada, yada, yada. If you remember, there's tabs up here. First one says my first day in ag is 7/1/2011. This guy I created a while back. If that's wrong, they can go to their profile, check their classes, and say, wait a minute, I wasn't in a 2011 class. I need to delete that one. Okay. Or if something's wrong, they can ask you to change the date that the class started. That will change for everybody, but maybe that's more accurate. Now it says 2013 was my first day in class, and that's more accurate for me, I guess. So that's one thing. Experiences, current inventory. So things I started with. In my beef enterprise, I had maybe Orscheln's. I had some stuff. That's who I purchased it from, and I had a bag of feed, okay, and it was worth $50. I'll just put 50 pounds. 50 pounds bag of feed, and I can save that. I can put all this. This is current inventory. Things that are, maybe feed pans, I guess, or could be considered that. Any supplies I already have. Capital items. So I've switched tabs here. Because I've there's the same choices. There's always been non-depreciable, depreciable, machinery, land, or depreciable improvements, and then land. I'm going to say that I had cow number. I strongly recommend not putting cow herd. Okay, not because you can't do that, but because you lose a lot of value through the system if you try to manage everything as a herd. If that herd decreases in size, goes from 50 to 40, it looks like it doesn't. There's no way to explain that loss in value via quantity. So I strongly recommend people identify their animals as a number or a name or something unique to themselves. Cow number 1 is one that I had purchased with some 4-H money. It was depreciable. Beginning value right now, we'll say 2,000. It's going to be worth $1,000, and I'll say 8 years from now. Okay. Cow number 2, I'm going to say is one I raised, non-depreciable. You still need to put that value in there. She's worth the same. Salvage value doesn't really matter because this doesn't really matter because it's non-depreciable. So what you put there doesn't matter at all. Okay. Those are my 2 cows. That's all I've got. Okay. Now, one thing some of you are going to really dislike about this system, some of you will think is fine, you'll get over it, is when you do this, you'll see it says cash to cover beginning inventory. That was this $50 here. Cash to cover capital inventory. That's this $4,000. Here's where you put in your additional cash on hand. So this is actually, they have $1,000 in the bank or $10 in their pocket. This is what they put in there. Okay, they save that. Now, I'm going to go back to that screen. The reason that it puts this in here, kids might be like, well, I don't have that cash. And that's true, they do not. The way the system does this is basically on your first day in ag, you purchase everything. Okay, and I don't know that I love that, but that's how basically if little Johnny had 2 cows, little Johnny just sold them to little Johnny's SAE. Okay, I guess think of it like that. It still keeps stuff non-depreciable. It doesn't show them as purchased depreciable livestock. It keeps everything as you coded it here. But on day 1, I'll show you what that looks like, I guess. In our finances, review and edit, anytime you want to see something, it shows here that on 6/1/2013, we bought a bag of feed from Orscheln's. Beginning inventory were our cows. It shows that as in our purchases. Okay, just know that is basically date entered ag stuff. After that, everything will adjust properly. That's just kind of getting started. So think of it as your personal kid's enterprise sold it to his official SAE enterprise. And that's how that – it'll still code it as beginning inventory, but that's something that sometimes throws some kids off when they first see that, if they're really into their record books. So that's that page. You'll notice this cash on hand should update as stuff changes, as they earn money or spend money. Okay. Finances. Okay, so we're here. New cash income and expense. This is very easy. Income expense. If they're entering old data, I'm going to open this real quick. This is a nice form. If you have a kid who's transferring their data over, they can change the date for each of these, just like kind of the old one you could do. And they can save that at the end and have all that, and it'll make different entries for each one. So if they have a notebook at home that has all these things that they have, or they have a group of receipts that they want to do, okay, and it's all related to their one SAE, they can't separate the SAEs, this is a good way to do that. If they have a singular entry, new cash income, then it's just going to give them one date, one vendor, and they can break that out based on, well, some of this feed was for weaned calves, but some of it was for my breeding beef. It was feed. Hey, I bought it from Joe. It was $100 here, $1,000 there, and $2,000 for my cattle, and it was feed bill. I don't know what we were feeding, but part of that money went to each enterprise. I can save that. Okay. There's one way to show that, I guess. That's your income or your expenses. Your income, same way. If you sell calves, actually, you can sell through this. I don't recommend it. If you're selling something other than actually a livestock that's in your system, so if you're selling eggs or selling milk, or you're selling wool, I would use this. I wouldn't sell an animal through this system, and I'll show you how I would recommend doing that. Okay. Finances. I guess there's the non-cash. So if they're doing some of this, non-cash gets a little tricky sometimes, but that's where if their products used at home is the one I use the most often. If the kid's eating the tomatoes that their garden raises, or they butchered their steer, those are some things that are handy. Some of these you can do from other screens, but I want to show you these managers. The first one I want to look at is manage your breeding herds, enter births, and sell offspring. Kids that don't have an entrepreneur, don't have these set up, won't have this screen show up. So if a kid's only placement, this wasn't here when we were only placement. Okay. You'll see here's my 2 cows. Okay. And I'm in breeding beef right now because that's my only one that's set up to be in this. I click and drag them over to dams because they're females. If I had a bull, I would do that. Okay. From this screen, if I think, well, wait a minute, I bought cow number 2 or 3, where's it at? I can do a new purchase of one. I create it. It's depreciable because I'm purchasing it. You'll notice non-depreciable is not a choice here, because if you're purchasing it, it is depreciable. You can do your salvage value, all of those things, and you can save it. So let's go ahead and we'll do one of those real quick. Cow number 3, and you can put a breed or whatever. I bought him from Fred Flintstone. He cost me $2,500. Whoop. Salvage value is 10 or 1,000. I think I'm going to use him for 8 years. I save him. Now cow number 3 shows up. Cow number 3 is also a dam. Okay. If you have a bull, you can put him in there. If you're using dad's bull, you don't have to have a bull or a sire. Okay. Now let's say it's calving season, or there's 2 tabs here. We got manage breeding animals and manage offspring. We can manage breeding animals. We can do feed entries, herd entry, meaning if it's for the whole herd. If we vaccinated cows or we preg checked, we could put some of that type stuff in here, and it would do a journal entry and an hour entry saying that we spent 4 hours preg checking our cows. Okay. And these will be entrepreneurship hours, not paid hours, because it is an entrepreneurship SAE. So let's say that we bred them, we AI'd today or whenever, and you can put a memo, help vet AI, okay? And it took us 4 hours, and our ag teacher was there, so I put that on there, and I saved that, okay? That has created an entry. If I have my, I'll quick go to journal here, and it should show up a journal entry that I AI'd for 4 hours, okay? So that's it all. Every time you put an hour in somewhere, it's adding to your journal, okay? You can do some other things here. Manage offspring. This takes us to the same place as, so there's 2 ways to do offspring. If I go back to here, I can click manage offspring, and I don't have any offspring. I can go new birth here, and I'm going to have this be calf 1-1 because it was cow, whatever your tagging system is. Birth weight, it was 80 pounds, I'm guessing. Now, if they have twins, actually, I'm going to just put in here. I'm going to put cow number 1. Now, I don't know. I don't want to tag it that. Calf number 1. Okay. And here, if they have twins, you can actually put, so this works good for sheep or pigs. So if they have litters, you can put in there, 2 female and 6 males if they're pigs. Okay. That's pretty unlikely for cattle, but maybe I had twin heifers. So I put 0 there. The cow was cow number 1. And again, outside class hours, this will make a journal entry. So if you were outside checking calves and you had to pin them up and it took you an hour to deal with this, and maybe you put pinned up new calves, whoops, that would be something you could do. Save. Now it's created calf number 1, which maybe is what I put in on my tag. It creates an F1 and an F2. That's for female 1, female 2. Okay. That's one way it creates some herds or some births. I'm going to do one more birth, but I'm going to do it from the managed breeding animals. And here I can say, well, I'm looking at my cows, and it was cow number 3 who had it. I'm going to put new offspring. Looks the exact same thing. Calf number 3, and your tagging system should be something unique. This one's light. It's only 1. Those are 2 big twins, huh? I'm going to put that it 0 hours. Dad found them. Okay, because I didn't actually do anything for that. Okay. Okay. So now I have these, and I can sell my cows from here. This is where I would sell. I can make them die. I don't want to do that, but I can. So if I sell that, it's going to tell me how much I sold it for. It's going to create that. I'm going to cancel. Here is where, when I'm in my offspring, okay, I've got 3 offspring. Here's what I'm going to do with them. Okay, I have some options here. If I'm selling them all, I can sell multiple. I put the sale price in, how much they weighed. I usually have them use averages unless they know specifically that some were different than others. I canceled that. If I only want to sell one, okay, maybe these twins, I want to sell one to the neighbor or to my sister or brother because they want a bottle calf and I'm tired of these twins. It looks like they're going to die. So I sell one. Maybe one does die. Transfer, maybe I eat one. I want a veal calf, so I eat it. Those are some things I can do. Or transfer, and transfer is where we'll look at here pretty quick. I'm going to sell this steer calf. Okay, I sell him right out of. Well, I'm not. I'm going to wean him because I said I background him. You can sell him from here. I'm going to transfer him. Okay, and I'm going to transfer him to my wean calves, and I'm going to do whatever the sale barn says they were worth. Maybe it was $900. I'm going to transfer them. Maybe they weighed 600 pounds. I don't know. I'm making up some numbers here. I can only transfer them here because that's the only one I have set up. But I'm going to save that. You'll see it went gray. Okay. I'm going to sell this one to my sister for $200, and it weighed 85 pounds. Okay. And I save that. You'll see it's gray. It doesn't delete those out of here, and that's what I like. It shows that it still exists, or it existed. You could always look back. I'm going to transfer this one also, and I should be changing the date on these, and I'm not. And it was also 600 pounds. I put a fair market value there. Now I show that all my cow-calf operation, I've gotten rid of my calves. They're no longer in my breeding beef herd. I've weaned them. Okay. So I want to switch. Well, I can't switch there. I go to finances. I want to look at where my market animals are right here. Market animals. You'll see these two showed up. They were not here before. They have different names, or they have the same names. I could change their name if I wanted to. If when I weaned, I cut the tags and I changed their name, I can do that. Okay. These are both female. Okay, looks like, yep, they're both F1, F2. And now I have a couple options. I know I want to keep one heifer. I feed them for a while. I'm doing feed entries, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe I buy a replacement heifer. I could buy one from Fred again, and I buy one for $900. I bought one of Dad's that I like better than mine. I save and return inventory, purchase for resale because it's market. I plan to sell it or use it. So I'm going to keep, I can edit that name again. It's actually going to be, I tagged it number 18, or it was number 7. Okay, number 7. Hey, that's the one I bought from Dad a while back, or when I weaned. Now it's come time where I've bred them, and number 1 did not get bred. So she's open and I want to sell her. So I sell her to Sale Barn and I sell her for $1,000. She's a little bit bigger now. She weighs 1,000 pounds. Hey, I sell her. She's gone. She's been sold out of there. It shows I only had her for a day, and that's because I haven't been changing any dates. I shouldn't have probably done that. But now these two got bred. And so because I preg checked today, I know they're bred. I'm going to transfer those to capital. You'll see this was not an option, the other one. This one is now an option. I'm transferring it to capital. And I'm putting and I'll change the date here. It was only a month later, but that's not accurate either. But now it's a bred heifer, and she's worth $2,000. She maybe weight's not as important, but maybe she weighs 1,250 pounds. Okay, description if you need one, bred to awesome bull. I don't know, whatever your bull was, bull number. Okay, I save her. Now she's gone. It says I transferred her to capital. I'm going to transfer this one to capital. She's worth $2,000. She weighed 1,250 pounds. Okay, now she's been transferred to capital. So basically, I've used my weaned calves as a clearinghouse to one, either I've shown profit to my cow-calf operation based on fair market value. Now I've used this to either sell them or to return them back to the herd. And when I go back to my breeding herd manager now, you'll see now I have 2 more capital assets here that are female, so I can bring them over here and I add them. And now next year when I'm wanting offspring, I have, when I breeding animals, now I have more animals that I can have new offspring from. So that's a great way to use this tool to help manage where your animals are going. I know historically when I looked at my own kids and also other kids' state degrees, and you see cows listed on the asset sheet, and one year they're valued at this, and the next year it says cows and they're valued at this, and the kids can't explain why that value changed, and then finally they remember that, oh, wait a minute, I kept a heifer back, so that heifer, or up on the current inventory, it says $1,000 one year, and next year that goes away, but their capital inventory increased, and they were calling it heifer. Now they're calling it cow, but it's actually the same animal. This kind of links everything together and helps keep track of those things. So hopefully that will benefit those. on that aspect. And that works the same way for both of those. Are there any questions on those manager tools, I guess, if anybody's still listening? I know it's getting long. There we go. It's like a few of you still there. Any questions? Are we good? Okay. So I really like those managers. They're not perfect, but they exist, I guess, and that's nice. There's not anything like that for crops. I wish there was. Maybe someday there will be. Okay. The other thing that's important to understand is up here then, when we look at buy, sell, and record usage, now you'll see that everything I've added in here is already there. Okay. I could sell it from here if I wanted. I can use it from here. I had a pickup in there from playing around. Sorry about that. So this usage of this cow number 1 was 0% weaned and 100%. This is something that you'll need to do at the end of each year. Okay? This cow was 100% breeding beef. And that's where it attributes that depreciation to. And so this one was 100%, so on and so forth. So that is, and this one's non-depreciable, so it won't really matter. But so that's something that is important to do. And let's see if it'll let us do, if we do 25 and 25 and try to save it, it'll say that doesn't equal 100. It has to equal 100. So kids hopefully won't be able to mess that up too much. Okay. So that's one thing they do at the end of the year. Enter loans and loan payments. Okay. Now this says, sometimes this will happen. This says I have an implied cash on hand loan. Okay. And the reason I have that is I've shown a lot of expenses and a lot of investments that I haven't shown income for. We haven't actually had any cash sales, or very few. And so this is the difference, meaning if it was possible for me to do all these things that we just said we've done, which one of those was a $5,000 pickup that I made up when I was playing around earlier, then I must have a loan somewhere of $9,000, $9,220. So ideally, they won't have this. If they're accurate, this should not be here. Okay. If I wanted to fix that and say, well, actually, I guess I do have a loan I'm going to pay back in a year. I borrowed $10,000 from parents. $10,000. This doesn't really figure out interest for you. You have to kind of calculate that by yourself. I'm going to make one payment this year. Well, I'll make 12 monthly payments. Number of payments per year. Number of total payments 12. Okay. Save. Now I have a loan to my parents because I borrowed $10,000 that had gone away. If I edit that and I make it $5,000 and save it, now I have an implied loan and a real loan. When I'm making payments on that, I just go in here and I put a new payment in, and maybe I paid $1,000 this time and I paid $25 in interest. And this was all 100% related to breeding beef. Then I can save that. And that shows my payments, and it shows what I still owe here. My new principal due is that. And so when they're editing those things or when they're making new payments, they can change that. I'm going to stop with that there, I guess. But that's one of the things that the loan payments is right there. Record non-ad earning gifts, expenses, and other assets. Okay. I've clicked that. This is where this button right here, there's a lot that can happen here. Personal expenses. Okay. AmPride, $50 gas. Okay. Just like they used to do. Educational expenses. We had that category. Non-ag SAE or non-SAE ag related. So I put the cows in for the neighbor and they gave me $10. It's ag related, but it isn't my SAE. My SAE is mowing lawns maybe. And I don't want to start an SAE for putting the cows in for my neighbor because I might do it one more time. Non-ag earnings. Okay. maybe I scooped the sidewalk for my neighbor and they gave me $10 and it's not ag and it's not going to be my SAE, whatever. Unearned income, mom and dad gave me a gift for $20 for my birthday. Here's where we get into, some people have asked about how to handle current or how to handle personal assets. Here's where you can put in some personal assets. They're non-productive assets. This will code them as non-productive assets. So which is what they are. A personal asset is considered non-productive in terms of your SAE. And that may change with this system. It may change with American Degree, State Degree. But as of right now, if I wanted to buy, if I think of a place, or if I think of Best Buy and $500 and I want to buy a PlayStation and games, okay, I buy that. Okay, I have that. Now, it's not going to change this because this is SAE stuff. But when I go to, maybe I want to sell that now, sell personal assets, and I sell it to my friend for $400 because it's used. I put PlayStation and games. It keeps track of the differences in those. And let me see where I'm at. It's not going to be, there's not any special reports for that, but it does show up. It does show up if I was to do a complete record book. I clicked reports to get here. And if I do a complete record book report, it will show up somewhere here of, if I scroll down here, this is what the record book looks like when it's not quite filled out all the way. Somewhere, I think, in the balance sheet is going to be your this is the beef. I want to get all the way to, I think I got to go to the bottom. Non-productively invested. There's a difference of $100. Like that's saying I have $100 in assets. So it doesn't say what they are, but it shows that I had paid $500 for assets and I sold 400 of them, so I must have 100 left. Okay, that's how that works, I guess. I don't think it gives me a list of those anywhere. It does show them on my income and expense, but it doesn't show them as like a list, like a net worth statement of personal assets. Okay. So here's my Best Buy and my sales there. It shows that in my record book, but it doesn't make a personal net worth statement like it does of these inventories of your cattle. Okay. And that's the actual record book form. Okay, I'm still here. Let's see, finances. Hey, the other thing that's important to do that's kind of new is this is going to automatically calculate depreciation, which is not the same as your market value. So if you put in your market value of $2,000 or your starting cost and it's depreciating over 4 years, it's going to depreciate out and it's going to show your book value unless you go here. And right here we say on my breeding beef, it gives me a suggested value for 2000. And let's see. And I'm not exactly sure where that's coming from. I guess we sold a bunch of our calves, didn't we? As far as current inventory, capital inventory, it's got there. But if our current inventory is greater, and this is one where when we get into our crops, which I don't have a crop enterprise, but let's just pretend for a moment that one of these is crops. This is where you can put in your value of hay, $1,000. Maybe it's first cutting alfalfa, 5 tons, okay? And you can save that, and that $1,000 will transfer into, it'll save, and now I've got $1,000 current inventory instead of the 200 that it thought I should have, okay? Because maybe my beef enterprise also has some hay. So that's one way to edit those as far as your crops and things that you have that you can't put through a manager that you still have at the end of the year. That's one way to do those. This button here, the non-cash income expense, such as labor, exchange, transfers, or use at home. This transfer to capital is one that we already kind of used. Use at home, and maybe we can. So this does the same thing. We select a name of it, and it's gonna. I like using the manager better because it tracks exactly where it came from. One that we have here, the use at home. Hey, you put a value on it, and you put butchered cattle, or $10, 5 tomatoes, okay, and save it. Whatever it is, whatever you're in, maybe it's a garden. Things that they're eating, that gives them that value of what they are. Have them look up what it costs at Walmart for a tomato, and if they gave their family 10 tomatoes, even though they didn't go to the farmer's market and sell it, those tomatoes had a value, and they should receive credit for that. Transferring, bartering. I don't use this one much. Possibly, I suppose if we had a hay enterprise, hey, let's maybe set up a hay enterprise real quick. I guess if we had a plant, if we had a forage. You're going to learn a lot more from getting kids into it and experiencing their SAEs. And you're going to have questions. Don't be afraid to ask somebody. Ask me or ask AET. They're usually more than helpful. Bales, I'm going to do, they don't even have tons as a choice. That's surprising to me. So we can do 100 to sales. I'll do acres of production. Okay, so there is no management module for that. But now if I'm in here on my transfer or barter, I can say I'm transferring $1,000 of forage crop to my breeding beef and its feed expense, and I could save that. I'm not a big fan of, I wasn't a big fan of it in the old one of the non-cash. I'm more of a fan of just essentially writing a check to my hay operation from my beef operation and showing it as a cash expense. I don't know that that's perfectly the way you should do it, but that's how I prefer to do it. If you receive a gift here, you can put that in here. It's going to call it unearned income, but it's going to show that it was feed for your beef. So by doing this, it'll show you an unearned income of $50, and then it'll show you spending that $50 on feed. And so the memo might be a gift from dad or labor bonus or something like that. I'm okay with this. I usually have kids just go to their personal, if they know that happened. So this exact thing here, unearned income and feed, I usually have them just do 2 entries. I have them go here, call it an unearned income, say it was money for feed, and then go to feed and enter a feed expense. It's a matter of how you want to do it or how kids follow how to do it. Okay. When they get to their reports, these are where they can do their FFA degrees, record books. There's a lot of different reports they can do. I recommend you playing with these a little bit. It's hard to see, it's hard to get much value out of them until kids have stuff in there. But they can print a single enterprise report. So let's print my beef report, and I can go annual profit loss. And I can open, and it'll show me that just for breeding beef, it pulls out that page by year of how much money I've made there. That stuff's all in the regular record book. But that, okay. I'm going to real quick, I'll show you reports here in a second with a student who has some stuff actually in. I'm going to go back to chapter account real quick. So this is, I'm back in chapter. I wanted to show you one thing, chapter account wise, it's really handy for me that I really like. And I've clicked accounts. And now I'm going to click AET Message Center, send messages by SMS, email, or AET. I'm going to click that. Now from this screen, I can select a certain student that I have, either text, email, AET, parent. So if a parent's I need to get a hold of father or mother of that student, mother, father, mother. And that's only as good as the information that they've put in there. So if they put in the wrong number, it's not going to work. Same here, I can do all students. So if we have something going on, FFA meeting tonight at 7, and I want to do a reminder, I can say, I add my students there and they show up. And I say, oh, well, I know so-and-so's out of town, so I'm not going to bug him. And I can delete him off there. Or I don't want somebody to come to the meeting. I can say, I don't want them to know about it. Whatever you feel like you need to do. Not that you'd ever do that. If you can select individuals, okay, if you know there's only 2. You can also select by grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. So if 9th grade is supposed to bring money for FFA jackets tomorrow, you can remind them. You can have custom groups set up, so junior Parley Pro Team, senior Parley Pro Team, or officers, and add those. Okay, message, FFA officer meeting, and you can send it. From them, and some kids don't get a full message. You can type for a while here. So sometimes I'll have it go to their email too, because their email is more likely to get the whole thing. That way if a kid sees a message but doesn't get it all, he can check his or her email and get the rest. I can include in parents. I try not to bug them. If it's something that I know parents need to know about, then I'll add them to it. So that's been really handy. The biggest downfall of that is if kids reply, this actually sends it from your email address. So when they reply, it comes to your email address, and it comes from a phone number. It doesn't sync up with your contacts, I guess. So I tell kids if they want to reply, make sure they put in their message who they are, so I don't have to try to look up their phone number and know who's doing what. Okay. Some other things from the chapter side, some reports. A student grading report. Here's one that you can look up, and you can sort by date. So some have a certain number of entries they're supposed to do by the week. Like that's how you grade, and that's awesome. So if you wanted to do since the month of September began and sort by total number of entries, you can see I've got some kids way more active than others, okay, in their number of entries. You can sort by FFA activities, okay. You could use this as far as a management, record keeping motivation. You could use it as, September's community service month. Whoever can put the most community service hours in during September wins a prize, and you can keep track of that, sort it real quick. Whoever journals the most work hours during the month of July wins whatever, however you want to do it. So those are some things to be aware of that are there. Student badge summary. Kids get a badge based on how good they keep records. Now the badges is something AET manages. You can't say they get a badge. It's just based on their SAE type compared to other in the nation, and how well they're keeping records based on number of entries or quantity or value of those entries. Financial reports. I can select any student I want. If I want to do a balance sheet here, I can select a student, and I want to see Bryant's balance sheet. So if I could grade these from a P2C workshop or a in-service or from home without having to lug a bunch of record books around, if that's what I want to grade. Okay. Awards, there'll be more information coming on that. I talked about these 2 icons for the students to put in there. A career pathways report. So if I want to download that, it's kind of a bulky thing, but it's going to give you a list of demographics, how many females you have, I think, something like that. Oops, I don't need that. There we go. Okay, so there's some different tabs here. Let's see. Down here, pathways, it just explains them. Student interest form. I don't think – that's they can, I think, fill that out. summary form, it says I have 2 8th grade males that are interested in agribusiness. School report, it summarizes all that. So if you wanted to print this and say, okay, well, you'd want to, before you do that, make sure all your kids have entered, because mine haven't. But it gives you, so total, I have 21 kids that have entered themselves into the program, I guess. That's not accurate data. You wouldn't want to use this unless you this is the type of stuff that someday Matt may want us to use, so that we can not have to fill out that data sheet, I guess, possibly. He may not. I'm going to close that. Don't need it. Okay. I'm going to access a student account. Let's see if I can. I'm going to make a kid active that's inactive right now. Okay. And I'm going to look at his reports. And so from here, you can do, so I'm a student. I've clicked complete report. This is a kid who got a state degree last year. I could click any of these I wanted. But actually, I'll go back to profile. When we looked at AET experiences, you'll see he turned these off because those were his placements from the previous year, and he didn't like that they kept popping up. His plan, you can see he's answered these questions. He can print a PDF form, and it'll open up this, and he can print a signature page, and that's what they look like when they've been actually answered. On my Fred sample, they haven't been. So if he's into reports and he wants to do a record book report, you can put an ending date. I'm just going to create the whole thing. Any pictures that he's put in, all that stuff. It shows what classes he's been in, what years he's done what. There's summaries. This is his resume. Or actually, this is table of contents. I'm sorry. Here's his resume, which is okay. Like, it's not anything super special, but it shows his FFA awards, community service activities that he's done, certification skills. Here's the classes he's taken. A lot of blank space. Here's his competitions, and this year for him, I don't know if they did points on the record book. I'm not sure if that transfers. That's something worth checking into, I suppose. Here's his SAE plan, some pictures that he put in. Some more pictures of him that he put in, and that all comes together into the record book when he does a complete record book form. So this is what he'd print. You'll notice that it's not 4 different record books. It is, for example, well, let's find his. Actually, this one is. He set it up to be 4 different years. He had his placement start and end on January 1st. We were still kind of experimenting on how to do that. But when we get down to the balance sheet here, now it's each year all together. So you don't have to flip through to find beginning and inventory, beginning and ending. It should already all be on the same page, which will be kind of handy. Let's see. So that's that report. I guess portfolio over here. Oh, adding an activity is something that there's a couple ways that they can do it. When they journal, I better go back to Fred sample. When they're journaling things, and they want to time in FFA or competition activities, okay, they can create a new activity. They can say this was range judging or whatever it was. I don't recommend having them do this. I maybe wouldn't even teach them how to do this. Because what happens then is, and it maybe only bugs me, but one kid calls it range judging, one kid calls it that plant thing, one kid calls it grass ID. They all call it something different, and that bugs the heck out of me. On the calendar over here, if they click calendar, there's all these dates. And I guess I didn't show you how to add dates as a teacher. I'll maybe go back and do that. But if they did land and soils judging, okay, let's go back to range judging because I think I have more kids updated that. Oops. Where are we at? 2000. I'm in September. Okay. If they went to district range judging, I click this event, and I can put a bunch of different stuff in here. You've maybe used this for your POA, but over here to the right, it says participants, and it shows a list of who said they participated. And ideally, your kids would all call this the same thing. Some call it area, some call it district, and whoops, some call it range, some said range plan identification. I like to have them do that uniformly. But if they want to click here, it already opens that same screen. They call it what the rest of them called it, range. Okay, and they say it was an area contest. They maybe got a green ribbon. And this hours outside of class, I wouldn't worry. This is for their reference, at least as far as I know. Right now, our state doesn't have any requirement of hours. So I tell the kids, well, you were in contest for 2 hours. You could put that. Or you could put, we left at 8 a.m. and we got back at 4. So you can put 8 hours. Whatever you want to put, it's going to be more for their reference than anything. Because all this does for us is it counts points for their leadership. It doesn't matter how many hours long a meeting was. It just matters that they were at a meeting. And whether it was a half-hour meeting or a 4-hour meeting, it doesn't matter. So then they would show up there. I canceled because I don't want him to mess this up. If I'm wondering who all went to something, then I can go through and look at this up and say, oh, this kid did this. Good. That's what I thought. If they add it themselves, this doesn't happen. Community service, however, is one that they will probably add on their own. Like they'll do because community service cannot be an FFA activity. And that does not mean FFA cannot organize a community service activity, but it means you cannot double dip and have it count as FFA points and community service. And so if they want to do their journal, time in FFA, community service activities, here's one way that they can add that, okay, and put in their hours. I still do add our community service activities to our deal, but we usually do have a meeting, and then we have a community or a trash pickup or something afterwards. So I put two dates here, and trash pickup followed by September meeting. Add your participating in the chapter meeting, then add trash pickup as a community service activity. So I put a little note there telling them, make sure you remember that you were at the trash pickup too. If they stayed, not all of them stay for the trash pickup, so it depends on whether they should or shouldn't add that. But sometimes people think that was part of the meeting, and they have to add that separately. What questions are there? I've been rambling. It's been probably all of 30 minutes now. I know people got to get going by 5 probably. What's on your mind?
I think several people logged off probably because they had to go, but Keith, Ron, and Amelia, anything that comes to mind or any scenarios you want to run by John while we have him?
My main concern is this exchange for labor in the SAE, and because I've got a lot of kids, the ranch kids, that their cows run with their dad's cows, and they work right along. So that's the main one that I need to work with. Okay, let's play with that a little bit. So on the finances, SAE. Well, okay, so these kids have an SAE set up that is placement as well as, or is it so that'll decide if it's an SAE labor exchange, meaning they worked within like a non-paid placement. I think that's where this one goes.
And if they worked for the neighbor, which is not their SAE, they put cows in it for their neighbor, so the neighbor gave them a free square bale of hay.
Okay.
I think that would fit there.
What I have done, and I don't know how well this is going to work, I guess we're going to play with it and see, but we're doing the SAE labor exchange part of it, and they have a placement working for their parents as unpaid labor and then their own herd, so as an entrepreneurship.
Okay, so income in this case would be my breeding beef because they're getting feed. Expense. Oh, okay. So I wouldn't do this one. So I can't do that non-cash SAE labor exchange. I can't get that from a placement to an entrepreneurship. It's only showing one from the other, which I don't know that I agree with how that is set up. I guess I don't know. I haven't done a lot with this because Keith, what I usually have them do is if Dad's giving them $500 worth of hay, I show a cash income of $500 and I call that many hours paid, and I show a cash expense of $500. That may not be the correct way to do it, but that's the way I've done it.
It's a cleaner way of doing it.
It's cleaner, and if it makes you feel better and able to sleep at night better, have Dad write a check to kid and have kid write a check to Dad, and then you can say, yep, it was a cash transaction. But here's the way, labor expenses going to beef. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on how the best way to do that. I do it via cash, which doesn't help you much. And I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Any other things? I know there were some people concerned about the personal assets, and I don't have a great answer for that. I know how to put them in there, but they're going to show up. Basically, they're going to show you a total value, which is the difference of what you paid for them and anything you've sold. So it's not going to list a line item, which I know some want, but right now that doesn't exist. I guess there's also quite a bit of curriculum here. I haven't used it. Some of this is new. And so I'm considering using some of that. I haven't taught all this to my freshmen yet. The only thing I've taught to them is how to do their calendars. We haven't done SAE. We taught a little bit about SAEs 8th graders, and we'll get into that a little sooner, or in a little bit. But these help guides, some kids can look through these and kind of figure it out on their own. A lot of them can't because they don't know the terminology. But once you teach them what they're doing, if they remember that this exists, a lot of times they can use that as a helpful deal, I guess. What else? Put up
Any other questions for John? Well, I think it's obvious, John, that you know the system very well, and you've also had to help train teachers on multiple occasions. And so I feel you've done a really thorough job with this, and probably have shown more than just the basic stuff, like we said. And so once we have it uploaded to the archive, we'll communicate that to teachers and let them know that they can come back to this and learn how to do some of these more advanced things that we even got into a little bit later in today's conversation. My expectation is that this will be a very, probably one of the more commonly viewed professional development Wednesdays as an archive as teachers get into this, particularly in January. Having said that, the next PDW is scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd, and that's going to be over parliamentary procedure LSEs, and Jeremy Vlashine will be running that one. The foundation talks on November 5th. On November 19th is Grain Bridge, and a curriculum resource that is free to Nebraska Ag Teachers. kind of connecting back to this whole SAE thing and AET will be the proficiency application and American and State degree applications. Someone from National FFA actually will be facilitating both of those, and they'll be showing us the new applications and giving Nebraska teachers a heads up on how best to fill those out related back to AET. So with that, one last chance if there are any other questions. If not, John, thank you so much for doing this again for us. And when people have questions, you can say, hey, go watch the archive. And,
yeah, they'll have to watch for a while to get anything they want, though.
Thanks, John.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging on, and we'll get this thing posted soon. So have a good night, all.
Have a good night.